Luxury Auto One welcomes you back to another explosive story from the world of celebrity television and entertainment. Tonight, we are diving into a shocking showdown that no one saw coming, a clash that unfolded live on air and left audiences stunned. It is the story of Mark Wahlberg, a Hollywood actor and producer, storming off George Stephanopoulos' show after a heated and unforgettable exchange. What began as a standard interview designed to promote Mark's latest film turned into a dramatic confrontation that spiraled out of control. George Stephanopoulos, known for his calm and probing interview style, never backs away from difficult questions, and Mark Wahlberg, known for his blunt honesty and fiery personality, has never been one to hold back. When these two worlds collided, sparks flew, tempers flared, and viewers witnessed a moment that will go down in television history. As with every major celebrity clash, the build-up was almost as fascinating as the blow-up itself. Producers had lined up the interview weeks in advance, promoting it as a candid conversation with one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. Mark was set to discuss his upcoming action thriller, his business ventures, and his philanthropic efforts. Fans expected a mix of light-hearted banter, behind-the-scenes movie stories, and perhaps a few insights into Mark's personal life. What they got instead was a fiery argument that ended with Mark walking off set in anger. The show began smoothly. Mark entered the studio, flashing his signature half-smile, dressed in a crisp suit that gave him a polished yet rugged look. George greeted him warmly, shaking his hand and welcoming him to the program. The audience applauded, eager to hear from the Hollywood icon. For the first few minutes, everything seemed normal. They talked about the movie, Mark's training routine for the role, and his experiences working with the director. George asked thoughtful questions, and Mark responded with enthusiasm. But then, as George often does, he pivoted the conversation toward more serious topics. He brought up Mark's past controversies, including his early life troubles, his outspoken political comments, and the perception that Mark sometimes alienates his fans with blunt remarks. At first, Mark brushed it off, saying everyone has a past and that he's always been upfront about who he is. George pressed further, asking whether Mark's image as a tough guy had sometimes clashed with the values he claimed to stand for. The air grew tense. Mark shifted in his seat, his body language tightening. He leaned forward, his tone sharper now, telling George that he wasn't there to rehash old mistakes but to talk about his work. George, maintaining his calm demeanor, replied that viewers wanted the full picture, not just the polished promotional version. That's when Mark's patience began to crack. Mark said, "Look, George, I respect you, but you're not going to sit here and dig up old dirt on me when I've worked hard to change my life. If you want a soundbite, find it somewhere else." The audience let out a collective gasp. George, unfazed, responded, "Mark, I think accountability isn't dirt, it's part of the story. Don't you think people deserve to know how your past shapes who you are today?" Mark's eyes narrowed. He replied in a firm tone, "I don't need to explain myself to anyone. My work speaks for itself." From that point, the interview began to unravel. George asked about Mark's political views, specifically some comments Mark had made about Hollywood elites and American culture. Mark bristled at the question, saying the media always twisted his words and that he was sick of being portrayed as the bad guy. George tried to clarify, but Mark cut him off mid-sentence. "You want controversy, George? Fine. I don't agree with everything in Hollywood. I don't kiss up to the system. That's why I do my own thing. But you? You sit here in your chair, acting like you've got all the answers, when all you do is stir the pot. The studio went silent. George, still composed, countered with, "Mark, my job is to ask questions. Your job is to answer them. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should ask yourself why." That was the breaking point. Mark's face hardened, his jaw tight. He stood up abruptly, removing his microphone, and said, "You know what? I don't need this. I don't need to sit here and be lectured like some kid. I've been through worse than anything you could throw at me. I'm done." The audience gasped as Mark Wahlberg stood and began walking off stage. George had